All right, we're going to go ahead and get started, guys. You're here for LinkedIn for Speakers. Very excited to have all of you here, and we'll probably have a few more folks that will be joining us in a few minutes after we get started here. I'll just remind people that everyone will be in listen-only mode for the duration of the webinar. This is a Power 30 webinar. This will be a pretty fast-paced, information-chocked 30 minutes here. And in the interest of time, to keep things moving, I'm going to keep everybody muted. But if you have any questions about using LinkedIn, if you are a speaker, feel free to use chat liberally throughout the session here today. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with some introductions. And usually what I tell people to do is anytime you're in a webinar, use this as an opportunity to talk about your speaking business. If you're trying to get more speaking gigs, you need to let people know what you're looking for. So here's what I do. And I actually might even have this as a template in my desktop, depending on the meeting that I'm going into. But what I will do is I'll actually just message this in chat to tell people, remind people kind of who I am and what I do. And I'm gonna do this myself right now. And I'm going to have you guys do the same, just trying to navigate to chat and kind of multitask as we're going here. So I'm going to drop this into chat right now. And what I want you to do is the same thing. You don't need to say, hi, I'm Brenda Meller, because Zoom already tells us your name. Okay, so you don't need to say that part. But I do want you to say, are you an experienced speaker? Or are you an aspiring speaker? Maybe this is something you'd like to add into your speaking business in the future. Are you already speaking right now as an experienced speaker? And then what do you speak about? What's your speaking topic? Or maybe it's not a topic per se, but it's an audience that you're trying to reach. So who are you speaking to, or what are you speaking about? And then drop your LinkedIn URL. And what I want to encourage you to do when you use your URL in these sessions, I want to encourage you to put the HTTPS at the beginning of it, because that makes it blue and clickable in the chat. And little bonus for you guys, if you weren't aware that you could do this, there's actually a way that you can download the chat. And what I like to do is before I leave any webinar, any virtual event, I will export a copy of the chat. That way, anybody who's dropped links in there, their LinkedIn URL, their email addresses, things like that, I can follow up. And the way that you do that is scroll down to the bottom of your chat, and where it says to everyone, off to the right-hand side, you're going to see 3 little dots, and then click on those 3 dots. And then you should see an option to save chat. Okay. So Tom, I'm going to call attention to you right now. I hope you don't mind putting you on the spot. You are describing you're an experienced speaker. Topic is change leadership, just presented recently to an Ann Arbor SHRM chapter. But I see that your LinkedIn URL is not clickable. Did you notice that, Tom? So it looks like what you did is you might have manually typed it in and instead of doing TT, you did the HHTPS. So here is what I would recommend. I'm like the lazy marketer with the hacks. That's what I am. I'm not lazy, but it's going to help you remember. This is how I do things. I'm going to go to my LinkedIn profile, and rather than manually typing it in, I'm going to go on my profile. I'm going to go in the menu bar, and I think if you click on it twice, it loads the whole address bar. So then if you click on it like 3 times, it grabs it. Click, click, click. I'm like on a PC. Hopefully that works on Macs too. But I click on it 3 times, and then I do Control-C for copy. And that way, when you paste it into chat, it has the HTTPS, and I did not have to type in, is it HHTP? Is it TPP? PSPS? I don't know what it is. That's just my lazy marketer's approach, is just copying and pasting it so you don't have to do it yourself. So if you've not yet introduced yourself, I want to remind you, this is an opportunity for you to introduce yourself and to get to know some fellow speakers. And then before you leave the session here today, make sure that you download the chat. And again, the way you do that is go to the everyone box at the bottom where it says to everyone. Off to the right-hand side, you're going to see 3 tiny little dots. Click on those, and then you can save that chat, and then it saves it to your downloads folder. That way you can come back to that chat later on, and you can look up that information, and you can connect with people on LinkedIn. So every webinar, every virtual event you're in is an opportunity for you as a speaker to get the word out and to introduce yourself. Let people know if you are a current speaker, and I specialize in helping people optimize the power of LinkedIn, or whatever that topic is, and then drop your URL in there. It's a good way of building up your network on LinkedIn. All right, so delighted to see all of you, and delighted to see those of you who are in playback as well. I know there's going to be a handful of you watching in the recorded version of this as well. So it's delighted to have you watching, whether you're watching live or watching in playback. All right, so we're going to be focusing on 3 things in the next roughly 25 minutes here. We're going to talk about how to optimize your LinkedIn profile, and how that can lead to more paid speaking gigs. I'm going to give you a couple little tips in there. And I'm going to talk about some common mistakes that you might be making on LinkedIn right now that could be costing you business. It could be costing you leads, and that could be minimizing some of those things that aren't bringing opportunities to you. And I want to give you some simple techniques that are going to help you to amplify your reach on LinkedIn. So very excited to bring these techniques to you. And before we go forward, just a little bit of background. What I do for a living is I'm an independent marketing consultant, and I specialize in helping people with LinkedIn. And I've also been doing public speaking professionally for the past few years now. It's actually one of the core parts of my business. So since I have this unique perspective of a marketer, I'm always thinking about your target audience. Why do they care? What are your business goals? I have the experience of being somebody who teaches people LinkedIn, and I'm an experienced speaker. It's kind of the trifecta, if you will. And that's why I put together this session, because I see a lot of mistakes that are being made. I have a lot of friends, people like Tom, that I want to help out. So I love bringing this information in a live webinar format. So let's get started. And I want to have a conversation with you guys about your LinkedIn profile. And I want you to think right now about your LinkedIn profile. And even if you have your phone with you, you can even pull your phone out and you can kind of follow along with me. And I want you to think about, is your LinkedIn profile optimized? If you don't know what that is, spoiler alert, it's probably not. But here's how I like to think about it. And your profile is really a visual and online representation of you and who you are as a speaker. So I want you to think almost of the analogy of a sculptor. And I like to think of that sculptor, the little girl who's in the financial district in New York, and she's got her hands on her hips in there. And what I like to think about is that sculptor, that it really wasn't anything. It wasn't that finished work of art until they started to kind of craft and sculpt and build things around it, right? And then it became a work of art as much as what they left in, right, to make her arms, as what they took out, the holes in between the arms. So that's what makes it a final work of art. Your LinkedIn profile is the same way. You need to think about, who is your ideal target audience? If you're trying to book speaking gigs, your ideal target audience is that person who's going to book you, right? It is not an HR manager or recruiter. So if your LinkedIn profile looks like a resume, that's part of the reason you're not getting speaking gigs, because it doesn't look like you're a speaker, right? So I want you to think right now, who is your ideal target audience? And you might have some clarity on that: job title, needs that they have, geographic area, but kind of think about, that is your ideal target audience. That's who you're writing your profile for. I want you to think about filling out all the areas they give you on your profile. We're going to talk about a few of those today, and using the character counts that they give you, because you can actually fill out your about statement, for example, for 2,600 characters. You can tell us your story, tell us your topics. So let's maximize those fields that they give us. And then I also want you to think about writing your profile for a person, because we want it to be interesting for a human being to look at your profile, right? And we also want to write it for a computer, so that you're coming up in more searches, you've got the right keywords and phrases, and once people land on your profile, we're keeping them there longer. Okay, so that's a little bit of, in terms of profile optimization. I just wanted you to shift your way of thinking. It's not like a resume, because the goal of a resume is to get a job, right? Your LinkedIn profile really should be optimized to speak to your ideal target audience. So here's what I'm going to give you guys right now. This is my LinkedIn profile checklist, and feel free, if there's anything in here you want to take a screen picture of, this would be one I would say take a picture of it. And literally, if you've got like one of those clipping tools, you can grab a screen capture. If not, grab your phone, turn it sideways, and take a picture of this. And this is something that you could refer back to later. So here's my checklist. If you're a professional speaker, this is what you should be looking at on your LinkedIn profile. Do you have a professional photo at the top of your profile? Is it a professional photo, not a selfie? Okay. You should be smiling, pleasant looking in there, obviously. It should be current. It should look like you today, not like you from 10 or 15 years ago. Okay. And your face, from the top of your forehead to the bottom of your chin, your face should fill about 50% of that circle. So make sure you zoom in if it's a little bit too far away. Your background image should support your speaking business. So this is that rectangular area that's behind your profile. Maybe it's a picture of you up on stage, or maybe it's a picture of a collage of different photos of you at events, or a logo for your company, for your speaking business, but it should support your speaking business. Okay. Your headline. Now, this is the field that most people have: job title at company, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't tell me anything. What I want to see is something that says speaker, or national keynote, or virtual speaker, and maybe a couple of your speaking topics in there, because that's going to help me to know exactly who you are and what you're doing on LinkedIn. Your contact info. Take a look at this. If you haven't done this in a while, click on your contact info. First of all, make sure it's complete, make sure it's accurate. So often I look at profiles and they say, oh, that was my corporate job. I don't work there anymore, right? So make sure that your website is reflecting your business today, your speaking business today. And you might even want to think about LinkedIn gives you spaces for up to 3 websites in that contact info. Maybe you have a demo video, a link to an online demo video that you could point people to. Maybe you have an event page where people can see you at upcoming speaking engagements, whether they're virtual or in person. So think about using that contact info to promote your speaking business. Next, your about statement. This is very important. I recommend, even though they give you 2,600 total characters, I recommend you focus on what appears in those first 3 lines. Very important here, guys, because most people are not going to click on see more. You know, I'm talking about when it gets to that point where there's too much text, see more. Most people are not going to click on it. The right people will if you've captured their attention, okay? But you've got to capture their attention in those first 3 precious sentences. And then look at your about statement. Is it written in the first person? Does it say I am, we, our, those types of statements? I am an engaging presenter. I'm a high-paced, fast-paced, energetic presenter. Are you describing yourself in the first person, or are you saying Brenda Meller is an engaging presenter who engages audiences, right? That's kind of boring. First person is much more engaging. And is it interesting when you read through your own about statement? I want to give you a little bit of tough love right now. When you read through your own about statement, is it interesting to you? If it's not interesting to you, it's not interesting to me as your reader either. So I want you to think about how can you make that more engaging, really expand on that about statement. And again, as I said earlier, you can put some of your speaking topics in there. You can talk about your past experiences and how they led you to create this speaking business and why you're passionate about delivering your message to your audience. So really expand on that about statement. It's a very important part of your profile. Your featured section, this is a newer area of your profile. Has it been activated? If you don't know what I'm talking about, it has not been activated on your account. You have to click to add it to your profile. And then you can actually put up to 2 to 3 items in there, one of which might be you speaking, whether it's a still photo of you up on stage, or it could be a clip of you speaking at a virtual event or at a live person event. So make sure that you're using that featured section. It can really help to sell you as a speaker. Your experience section is also important, and here it should really be a company page. It's actually linked to a page. I'm going to talk about that in a second. And it's not just that gray avatar. And it should explain your speaking business, who you are catering your talks to, what are the topics, how do people get a hold of you. Sprinkle that contact information in several places throughout your profile. It's a really important point here. Moving down to the bottom of your profile, there's a bunch of other stuff. There's education and all that other, and I'm gonna say just take for granted that you fill that out, but there's a couple things I really want to call attention to. The last 2 on here, skills and recommendations. First, skills. LinkedIn gives you the ability to add up to 50, and I would use all 50 because it does help you to come up in more searches. But what I really want to focus on for you as a speaker, look at your top 3 skills. How closely are those top 3 skills aligned with your speaking topics? And I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but you can actually reorder those top 3 skills, and you can move them in order 1, 2, 3. I wouldn't reorder the rest of the 50 because nobody's going to look down there, right? But the top 3, that's what's visible. And you want to make sure that those are related to what it is that you speak about. Okay. So look at those. If you're struggling with that list, let me know. I can help you out with that. And then finally, look at your recommendations. And I like to see if you as a speaker, have you both given and have you both received recommendations in the past year? And a lot of times I land on a speaker's profile and they have been given recommendations, but it was 5 years ago at their corporate job and they haven't received any from their speaking clients yet. So that's an opportunity right there. And then also the other side of it, have you ever given recommendations to people? When you do so strategically, because remember, we gain real estate on their profile when they accept those recommendations. So try to make sure that you have both given and received at least 1 recommendation in the year 2020. And check out my profile. If you guys want, if you need additional examples, this is part of what I do for a living, and speaking is part of what my business is. So look at my profile, you may get some inspiration there. And yes, I do provide LinkedIn training and coaching as a service. I help with profile rewrites. So let me know if you're interested in more of those services. All right, I'm going to do a quick little check here and just to kind of see how you guys are doing. Is this making sense so far? So if you can give me either the manual thumbs up or message me in chat, let me know this is making sense. Awesome, Tom. Thank you so much. And I see there's a couple other folks that are on here. I'm going to do a quick pop into the email just to make sure that nobody is being left behind. So let me just stop my share for just 1 second. So I think we had about 20 or 30 people registered and I'm not seeing anyone in there. I'm not seeing any final folks saying I can't get in. So I'm going to assume whoever is here could make it because I know we rescheduled the date here. So we're going to keep on going here. All right, so let's share the screen back again. And the good thing is when I go back into the production, I'm going to clip this together so you're not going to see any of this part that will be in there. All right, so let's move on now. I talked about your company page on your LinkedIn profile. It's really important if you have, if you're a speaker, if you're independent, you're not working for a company anymore, you have your own company, whether it's an LLC or a speaking business, and make sure that is linked in your LinkedIn profile. And I'm just pointing this in my profile. You can see Meller Marketing. And when you have set up a company page on LinkedIn for your speaking business, we don't see that gray avatar. And when I see the gray avatar, it makes me think about, is this person legitimate, right? Are they working out of their basement? Do they really know what they're talking about? When you have a business page for your speaking business set up, it appears at the top of your profile. And it's actually free to do. And you can actually post additional items on that business page on LinkedIn. So I have a blog on how to set up a company page. The link will be in the playback as well as a download of these slides, but you can check that out. You can set it up for free yourself. If you need help with that, let me know. I'd be happy to help you with that. So make sure that you do have that business page if you are a professional speaker. All right, so I want to get into a couple of common mistakes, and I want you to really think deep within yourself. Are you making any of these common mistakes? Because if you are, they could be costing you business as a speaker. First thing, does your LinkedIn profile, does it look like a resume? And I really want you to think about this. Does it look like a resume? Because if it does, that may be costing you business. People don't know that you're looking for speaking gigs. They think you're looking for a full-time job, okay? The second thing is, how easy is it for me to find your contact info? And you can even do this on your own profile. Look at your profile from top to bottom and try to find how many different places you can find your contact info. And what I mean by contact info, it could be your email address, it could be your website, or it could be a phone number. I should find that at least 2 or 3 times sprinkled through your profile. Certainly in your contact info, but maybe in your about statement as well, maybe in your experience section as well. Okay, so make sure that I can find it in a couple different places because we don't know where people are looking for that information. And many people don't know about that contact info, or if they're looking at it on mobile, they don't know that you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom. Okay, connections. So heart to heart here. Do you have less than 500 connections on LinkedIn? If you do, some people are going to not take you seriously as a speaker. They're going to think you're just getting started in your career. You're just getting started in your business. And I don't know what it is, but when we get to that 500 plus, it kind of legitimizes us on LinkedIn. So if you're not at that level yet, I would highly encourage you to continue to grow your network so you can be above that 500 plus connection mark. Okay. No recommendations from past clients. That's a big mistake. If you are a speaker, every time you speak, if the client loves you, the crowd loves you, you should be asking someone from that group, hey, can you give me a LinkedIn recommendation? You do have to be connected with them, and you do get the opportunity to review it and approve it before it goes on your profile. What I would recommend is the person who booked you should be the person that you ask for that recommendation from, okay? So if you don't have any yet, try to get at least one on your profile, especially if you've ever been booked to speak and they're not paying you. This is part of your payment, asking them for a LinkedIn recommendation, okay? So don't be shy about that. And then finally, when you invite people to connect, are you sending invitations without a personal note? If you are, you need to start including a personal note every single time and make that invitation all about them. Hi, first name. Have we met or not? And if you haven't met, look at their profile, mention something from their profile. Let's connect on LinkedIn, your name. That's it. After they accept, that's when you begin the dialogue and start pitching yourself as a speaker for their upcoming events. Okay, so those are a couple of common mistakes. I'm not going to ask you guys to put yourself on the spot and self-identify if you're making any of them, but I would encourage you to think about if you are making those mistakes to stop doing it and start moving forward. All right, I want to go into the final section of the presentation here today, and this is simple techniques to amplify your reach. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips in here. My very first one is this: tell people to take photos while you are presenting, whether that is in person or virtually, and encourage them to post them on social media and tag you and share something that they learn. And I like to do this actually several times. So I'm telling you guys right now, if there's anything that you want to post online about my presentation, feel free to take a picture. Okay, post it online. Feel free to do that. And I want to think about this analogy. Sometimes when you tell people in your audience to do something like take a picture of you, it's okay to post on social media, they need a couple of additional reminders. It's kind of like when you were a kid and you went over your friend's house And their mom said, hey, Brenda, are you thirsty? Can I get you some water? And I was very shy. And I said, no, thank you. I'm okay. And it was a really hot day and I really wanted some water, right? And then my friend was drinking water and their mom was drinking water. And she's like, Brenda, are you sure you don't want some water? We have a bottle for you here. And then I said, well, if you don't mind, I would love some water. And then it was like the second or third time that the mom offered me the water was finally, I would guzzle that thing down. It was so thirsty, right? It's the same thing with your audience members. They need to be reminded, they need to be coached and encouraged to do these activities. So let them know. And actually, when I do this, I take out my phone. I say, take out your phone right now, pull up your camera app, turn it sideways because you get nice horizontal photos. Those work well on social media. Encourage them to do that and encourage them to post that on social media. What I would do is I give them an example. And for you guys, I might say something like this. Post a picture on social media and say something like this. Attended an amazing webinar today led by @Brenda Meller, tag me, and I learned great techniques to help me as a speaker to expand visibility on LinkedIn, right? So that's an example. I'm giving you some example of the text that you could share. I'm reminding you to take that photo, and I'm even telling you, here's an example of what you could say in that post. And when I see people doing it in the audience, I might be like, great, I see Tom's taking his camera right now out. Feel free, Sheila, if you want to do the same, feel free, take a picture. Remind them again. This is a way to increase your visibility because you get other people talking about you. Not you talking about yourself. You get people online talking about you. You get people sharing pictures of you on stage. And then you start to be one of those people, like people saying, I'm seeing you everywhere. People are always posting pictures. Well, you're guiding them, but that's perfectly okay to do, right? It's helping to gain visibility for yourself on this amazing platform. All right, so that's my first simple technique for you. Moving into another one, and this is, as soon as that event is booked and locked in on that event planner's calendar, start promoting it. Start helping them out by getting the word out. Now, obviously, this technique only works if this event is open to the public, if people can book a ticket or attend the event. If it's a closed corporate event, you can't do this, right? But as soon as this is a public event, start promoting it. Put out a social media post. Thrilled to announce that I've been named as one of the upcoming speakers for the @Troy Chambers Nonprofit Management Conference, and maybe a picture of me with something in my speaking topic in the background, for example. I would tag the Troy Chamber. I might tag Jody House, who booked me for the event, and say, I'm looking forward to speaking. And I also might tag the other speakers. Maybe I create a collage of photos of all the other speakers at the event. Nobody else is doing it. It's a great way to build up social media karma within that speaking community, and also to help the organizer to get the word out about their event. Okay, so this is a simple technique. Promote that event as soon as it's public, and you can do so by just posting and talking about that on social media. All right, final technique here, and then we'll open it up to questions if you guys have any. And this is to request a recommendation from the person or organization who booked you. And I want you to think about this. When people book you for an event, who is that person? It tends to be the person who's in charge of events and maybe marketing, or maybe leadership development, or community outreach, or whatever it is. They tend to travel in packs. Event planners from this organization talk to event planners from that organization, and sometimes they go to events where as event planners, they meet and they strategize and they talk about tips, and they're going to be like, yeah, I was at this amazing SHRM conference the other day, and I saw this guy. Oh, what was his name? Tom Daniels. Oh, Tom, what did he speak about? Well, Tom talked about leadership, and he was an amazing speaker, and he captivated our audience. Well, that's great. So if a person books you for an event, they've got friends who also book people for events. So you should ask them, hey, Sheila, could you give me a LinkedIn recommendation? Specifically, if you can talk about my strength as a speaker and how I engage your audience, that will really help me because I'm starting to expand my speaking business. So remember here, like attracts like. If you can get an event organizer to give you a LinkedIn recommendation, you are going to gain visibility for yourself because you're gaining real estate on their LinkedIn profile and also on your LinkedIn profile. The other thing I like to do, once they give you a recommendation, it's public, right? I will merchandise these recommendations. I'll put them in my proposals, sometimes in my email. Sometimes I use them as social media posts. Look what Sheila from the Troy Chamber said about me speaking at her event, type of thing. Shining the spotlight on them. And it's kind of like that stamp of approval, right? Because somebody has already seen you speak and they can vouch for you. And there's a high degree of credibility when that recommendation sits on someone's LinkedIn profile. Okay. So again, this final technique is to request a recommendation from the person who booked you. So hopefully you found that helpful. All right, guys. So as we wrap this up today, I just want to remind you, I do have a series of these Power 30 webinars. These are quick hit strategy sessions where I bring a variety of marketing and LinkedIn and different tips to you. I've got upcoming sessions on winning at Zoom, LinkedIn 101 for beginners, 6 tips on using LinkedIn for business development, and setting your prices as an independent consultant. In addition to today's session, LinkedIn for Speakers, I'll be rotating these around about one every 2 weeks, and you can always register to join an upcoming session. Even if you can't be there on that date, I will send you that playback link. All right, and that kind of wraps us up for today. I do want to remind you, if you do need additional help, these 30-minute webinars are always free. And I don't know about you guys, I hate when I get on a webinar and it's like a 1 hour webinar. It's like 30 minutes of content and then 30 minutes of a heavy sales pitch. I don't do that. I'm a marketer. I'm not a salesperson. Having said that, I am an independent consultant and I do need to bring in income for myself and for my family. So this is my only sales pitch, you guys. If you do need additional help, I do work with people one-on-one. I can help you with your LinkedIn in a virtual coaching session. I can build your profile for you. I can help you with your company page. Or if you hear somebody who needs some assistance in any of those areas, keep me in mind. That's as much as I do. And if you even want to do just a quick 30-minute strategy call, I also have those available for you. And it's only open to folks who've attended this session. So I'll include the link in the email that I send to you to make it a little bit easier if you're interested in that. And then some other items you could do, you could follow the Meller Marketing page on LinkedIn. I'm always posting LinkedIn strategy tips there. We'll be happy to share those with you. And you can subscribe to my Meller Marketing YouTube channel where you can get like great LinkedIn strategy tips. I share out my live interview series, and I'm also sharing fellow webinar series with you guys as well. So check that out.